Hi guys, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be drawing and talking about 7 from the game Deadlock by Valve. I tried to do a little bit more of a realistic take with like an actual skull, so we're going to see how it goes. I've been playing Deadlock a lot more lately since there was an update, probably 6 weeks ago now. And I don't know, I've just been having a lot of fun with it. 7 is not the character I typically play. In fact, I've actually never played him, but my cousin likes playing 7, so I figured do this drawing and it'd be for him. 7, I don't know, 7's kind of an area control character in the game. He has a ability that he hops up in the air and kind of electrocutes all of his surroundings. But I don't think that's actually how you want to play him. You want to be playing him probably more around his 3 ability these days, which is like charging up your gun so that energy arcs or electricity arcs. Because 7 has some pretty interesting character lore to go around why he's built the way he's built in the game. And part of that is because in the world of Deadlock, magic is just a reality that explicitly exists. It's not anything like our real world where we, some people would be certain that there are things that go on, but most people are probably skeptical to one degree or another. But in Deadlock, it has definitely happened. And there are definitely those who are seeking enlightenment from it. And 7 is basically on a conquest to become sort of a deity, one of the types of deities, or even beyond a deity, that has formed in the universe, which are these patrons. In the game, that is what you're fighting for, is these patrons, each side, with the hope that, you'll have a kind of wish granted. And 7's wish is to become a deity, and then in the universe, his pursuits went too far, and he found himself locked up and being executed for his pursuits. And I don't know if 7 comes from kind of a 7 deadly sins concept, or there's also some other things in the lore about like there being 7 people praying as he was being killed or being executed, and of course that execution failed. And so now he kind of exists as this undead creature that does have an immense amount of power. And I don't know what more power you need if you're undead, but since he was being put to death via electric shock, his abilities seemingly are affected by that. Everything he does is empowered by electricity, and his character design in general has him in prison clothes, and he kind of has this electric sort of lightning rod idea, I suppose, attached to the top of his head, which is this cylinder here, which I'll just give some highlights on. So it'll be an interesting drawing because doing metal textures, so we're going to have a bony skull texture here, and then we're going to have this metal texture going on, and then down here there's fabric. So things that I typically count as pretty hard to do is put a lot of textures in monochrome drawings, but I like the challenge. There's also these kind of tubes here. So I'm just going to have the light source come from this way as typical. So I guess I'll put the... Overall I'm going to try and go pretty fast on this one. Again, he has some sort of lightning rod type spikes coming out of his armor. And I just wanted to make a more realistic version. Plus I wanted to draw a skull. I noticed when I was zooming in on his character design that he has the elements of a skull there, as if maybe his skin got melted away during it and he's wearing a bag, because, you know, typically when they execute people via electric chair they would put a bag over their head. So he has a bag, but I wanted to highlight the more undead nature. It might turn out looking a little Ghost Rider-esque, but that's alright. I wanted to, like I said, do the skull detail. And do teeth. I like drawing teeth lately. They're kind of a hard challenge. In Deadlock, I like to play kind of like playmaker characters, we'll say. So that would be Paradox or Lash. Maybe not characters that carry the game, because I, you know, in other games I do plenty of shooting. And when you're playing Paradox, it is pretty aim intensive. Lash is not really aim intensive, it's more knowing your moments. But it kind of felt like when I was starting to learn the game, if I'm going to play a MOBA, I might as well, you know, play something that isn't just holding down mouse 1, like a Wraith or a Haze. And so I've enjoyed learning that aspect of it, and I think it's kind of made me a better player to have to learn how to use characters that maybe are more truly MOBA type players or characters. It's made me think a lot more about my decisions, and I think even playing someone like Seven, you know, you're largely just kind of playing around your gun. Working on his orbital here. I actually kind of like the way the face is right now, without too much like smooth shading, just kind of a lot of pencil marks. Since the light switch is coming from the side, I'm going to make this a little deeper over here in shadow. Give it a little more blending. I really don't want to go too much more. I actually think it looks pretty cool with seeing the pencil strokes, and it kind of suits bony textures more to leave them rougher and less blended. I was trying to do some sort of hybrid look here too for the skull to mesh with the metal cylinder that is this electrical unit that sits on top of his head. The metal will definitely benefit from being more nicely blended, as it creates, metal has these areas that are highly contrasted, but overall they can be really, I don't know what you call that, high or low in value. I was going to say high, where they're contrasted, but it's between like bright and brighter as opposed to light and dark. So you kind of need a good base color to go along with it. I also like watching the Deadlock tournaments. I find them really entertaining and a somewhat, I mean, I guess maybe it's because I have some knowledge from playing, but a fairly easy quote-unquote esport to watch relatively. I used to like watching Apex when I played it, but I think for anyone that didn't fully know the game, it would have been super confusing to watch and try and figure out what is happening in an Apex tournament. Maybe even for players who aren't terribly good. You know, I don't know. I tend to think of myself as a pretty good video game player. I'm not really willing to like try super hard to sweat it out, as the people say, but my aim and decision making is usually enough to make me a pretty good player. Today, or I mean on Friday, which today is Sunday, Battlefield 6 came out, so I've been playing that too, which has been good fun. Battlefield's just kind of a simple game to pick up and play. You don't have to think too much about it. You know, if you're having a few bad rounds, that's a game that I personally have no problem hopping off of and being like, well, it'll be better a different day. The more competitive games, Apex, Deadlock, you know, they have this thing about them, which is, I suppose, addictive, where if you're on a few bad games, you're just like, well, I need to win a game before I can hop off. And next thing you know, you've just been struggling for, you know, a long time. So I don't know if it's a mark of a good game or an addictive game. Get those eye sockets fully black. There should be a little bit, since we're kind of underneath him, there's going to be a little bit on the underside of the eyebrow we see inside the skull there. And that'll just blend right in with the black, what I just did there. Just like there's a little bit on the inside of the skull here. I'm trying my best not to foul up the paper too. I'm just kind of hovering my hand, at least off the page. I've been frustrated by that all summer, and now that it's fall, I'm hoping to have some better results with the paper not being too annoying to work with. Aside from Paradox, I'd say you play Lash, play Viscous. I play Viscous and Lash proficiently. I'd say I play Paradox pretty well. And I recently started playing Victor, which does put me more of like into a carry role. And I don't know, I find him a lot of fun. It's a different play style than what I typically play, which is just kind of just run at people. And you can, you know, at least at the skill level that I'm at, which is not terribly high, kind of win a lot of fights just by the enemy team having to respect how strong Victor is and turning their backs and running away, and then your team just kind of snowballs on them. And so it's led to a fairly good win rate with him. You know, I've only played like 7 games, and I think I'm 6-1 or something. But I don't know if that'll pick up on the camera, but it's now raining really hard outside. Which, I don't even remember the last time it rained really, like, truly rained here. So, fall is here. I'm sure that's being picked up. I don't really have a whole lot to talk about in this video. I'm kind of just focused on drawing. And I wasn't really going to look up too much of the Deadlock lore because the game it's an invite-only state, and I don't know how much of it is truly locked down anyways in terms of lore. But one thing Valve has done, and the creative people there, is like all the character designs are just really cool. There's a couple weaker ones which are probably just from, them being the first ones made and not being revisited yet. Like Yamato is not that cool to look at visually anymore compared to a lot of the other characters, but all the newer characters just have really cool designs and art direction. And all the little details in them, you just kind of, I don't know, I find myself marveling at sometimes, like, oh, that was such a cool choice they made, and how they incorporated that and put it together. Spending quite a lot of time on just a skull, aren't I? I mean, not really. We're probably 15 minutes in and made pretty good progress, but as far as the balance of the video goes, just gonna get these teeth going. Adding the teeth to a skull always kind of starts bringing it to life. I mean, even it's not advised to draw teeth in a portrait, but even when it does, it really kind of centers the drawing in there. Just because they draw a lot of attention. So, for better or for worse, that would be why you don't draw teeth in a portrait, is because in a portrait you generally want the attention on the eyes. But drawing teeth inherently always grabs attention. Like I said, that could be for better or worse. Even if you've done a really standout job on some nice eyes, a set of teeth, probably take the glory. There's nothing wrong, even like if you have that awesome technical ability to draw teeth really well. It's just the reality of what our eyes are drawn to as humans. Which is, I guess, why a smile is favored so heavily in society. Alright guys, I'm going to pause the video there and I'll pick up again later. Alright guys, so we're back. I've blasted in the arm here and added some electricity to the pins up here, and I kind of used a pop can to draw loosely the shape of an orb here. I'm going to brush that on, and that's pretty much going to do it for this one. I like the brush on effect. It can kind of create a more whimsical, immaterial look, which is kind of what I'm going for with this electric orb that he'll be holding. I'm not sure how much it looks exactly like Seven, the character from Deadlock, but you know, I'm still reasonably happy, at least with how the skull turned out. Some of the other stuff, you know, I have a hard time, or can have a hard time, with picking light sources and, like you said, doing the armor and just all the different textures is really challenging, and when I don't have a reference for what I'm trying to do, then I can't get as dynamic of lighting. I'm just not, I guess, there yet on my drawing journey. Help define this orb a little bit here. I think for my next few videos I'm going to try and start doing some Universal monsters since Halloween's coming up. You know, I drew Frankenstein a little while ago, but I actually might revisit him since he's such a cool character. And I was thinking Invisible Man and Bride of Frankenstein, and you know, there's a lot of possibilities to do with the Universal monsters. The Mummy, at least the ones I'm into. I'm not into all of them. You know, I don't know if I'd do like a Dracula. I like Dracula well enough, but I don't know. Vampires are pretty common trope at this point. Alright, so I think that's going to do it. If you made it this far, I thank you for watching. Like I said, I'm going to start doing some Universal monsters coming up. I was also thinking of doing series of drawings where I like take an artist and sort of draw something that I think they might draw in my, you know, roughly my own style. You know, I'm just trying to come up with concepts for things to draw, and instead of just always game characters. And you know, ultimately I'd like to, when I draw, to just do as I do in these videos, which definitely are not as successful as the more put together lore videos where I sit down and do voiceover and write a fairly long script. But I kind of like the original old school YouTube vibe of just sitting down and talking and doing something you're passionate about. So I'm going to keep trying to make that work, at least for the time being. I know I can always ramp up the polish and production if I can't find traction with it. But, you know, I think I just need to keep grinding it out for now. So that's what I'm going to do. Anyways, thanks for watching. Hope to catch you guys in the next video. Peace.